Let's dive into the decal placement process on our model right here in 3ds Max. We've already learned how to place single decals, those individual planes we take and position on our model exactly where we want them. Since we've covered that before, there's no need to repeat it now. Now we're going to talk about trims. We want to see exactly how trims are placed and how we can effectively control them. Trims are these white lines you see here that have been added to the work. The logic behind it is quite simple. Take those narrow strips, or any strips we have in our texture, and repeat them along a specific path. Because these strips are tileable horizontally or vertically, we can manage this very easily using UVs. To get a better handle on this, I'll show you a couple of examples and we'll test them in Unreal. After the test, I'll cut the video, finish placing all the decals on the models, and then we'll check the final result together. Alright, I'll start by drawing a line here. It's very easy to do it this way. You could also extract these strips directly from your topology. For instance, you select the model and start cutting. That cut line becomes the path where your trim will sit. I'll use a line for now, and we'll try it with a cut later as well. Okay, I'll draw a rectangle in the middle like this. Let's turn off these two options. Coming over here, alright, we'll keep it right there. In the 3D view, I'll pull it up a bit. Now I'll give it some corner radius and take a copy. I'll make it an instance, so any change I make applies to this model too. So I've drawn two lines in the middle like this. Okay, I'll enable it in the viewport and define the width of this strip, or rather the detail range. Let's set it to 10 and reduce the length a bit so it sits close to the surface. Alright, that looks like a good distance. What I'll do is select both and bring them down a little, like so. Now I'll convert them to an editable poly. I'll select both and attach them together. Okay, I'll select the top surface, hit Ctrl-I to invert, and delete the rest of the faces. Now I have a specific range, a strip. What I need to do next is move the UVs of these strips onto my linear texture. To do this, I'll easily send the model to Rhizome UV. Selecting the model, I'll hit Edit and Send. Alright, we are now in Rhizome UV, and we're ready to start the UV process. But there's a big problem. What are we mapping this against? We can't see the texture here to align anything. To fix this, press Ctrl-T on your keyboard to open the texture image file path. Then go and select your decal label. I highly recommend picking the normal map. It's much more intuitive and helps you see exactly what detail you're applying. Okay, I've selected the normal map. Now I'll click these three dots and turn on the background texture option. The texture is now visible in the 2D space. Now it's time to activate this texture on my 3D model. I'll go here, hold this option, and select User. Now both viewports are showing the texture, but I don't see anything on the 3D model yet. Why? Because I don't have UVs. I'll just press U once. Now we can see the progress here. Alright, what I'll do is add two cut lines here. Cut. Then I'll select them and press U again to perform the unfold. Once it's unfolded, since I'm working with a strip, the key is to straighten my UVs. How can I straighten my UVs quickly? Well, since the topology is very clean and made of quads, I'll just select both islands, go to the Miscellaneous Transform section, and hit Straighten. It's that simple. Now I'll press P to pack them so they stay the same size. After doing that, I can select it, move it up onto the strip we defined earlier, and adjust it to my liking. For example, I want to use this first strip for the inner part, from here to here. Now we can look in the 3D space and see exactly what's repeating. Okay, that's done. Let's move to the second one. I'll bring it a bit higher and align it here. I'll say, okay, the dimensions I see here look perfect. Now what I need to do is stretch it from the edges. To do that, there's a very simple trick. I'll grab this middle pin, hold Shift, and move my mouse. Again, grab the pin, hold Shift, and drag. Now, if you look closely, my detail, that linear strip, is repeating, but the size feels a bit off. I need to move it over here a little. I'll hold Shift to keep it on track. Now, holding Shift again, I'll grab the pin and move it up a bit and bring it down on this side. There. The strip you see now is exactly what will show up in Unreal. Simple as that. Now, you might ask, what about texel density and things like that? Well, in a trim sheet, textile density isn't really the priority. What we're doing here is essentially creating and using a trim sheet. It's not some mysterious thing. It's exactly this. Alright, we've brought the model back from Rhizome with correct UVs. Now we just need to apply the material to this piece we created, which will be those same hard surface lines we set up. Alright, everything is ready to export and take into Unreal. However, there's a catch. Our main model, the floor, already has its materials and decals set up. Now we want to learn how to add new items, take them into Unreal, and only assign materials to those new pieces to finish the job. For this, it's very important. Pay attention. It's crucial to select your main model first, and then when you're attaching the rest, make sure to check the Match Material IDs to Material option. This prevents your material IDs from getting messed up. Okay, so now I have a model with different decals. Don't worry about it turning black here. That's just a 3ds Max bug. Nothing important. To export, I'll use my script again, select the model, and export it to the same path. It asks if I want to replace it. I'll say yes. Hit the button, it's replaced, and now we head into Unreal Engine to continue. Alright, we're in Unreal now. Here, I can either open the model and hit Re-import in the Static Mesh Editor, or I can just right-click in the Content Browser and select Re-import. It makes no difference. I'll go with the Re-import option here. It's telling me 2 materials are being added. I'll hit Done, and that's it. These 2 added materials are the ones I set up in Max for the decals. Now, we come here, the non-color one goes, well, to this section. I think I might have mixed up the names. Color is for the top, the bottom should be colorless. I mean for this part, and we can add our color here. Okay, I'll open this and say I don't want a custom color. Going back, everything is sitting perfectly in its place. Now when I save and return to the environment, you can see my details have been added to the work. These details were added with minimal hassle, and everything looks clean and correct. So that's how we can add our decals to the project. We've mastered singles, and now we've learned trims as well. From here on, deciding what shapes to use to make the models more attractive is entirely up to you. You can do whatever you like. That wraps up this section. Now that we know how to add detail using decals, I'll pause the video, finish detailing all the models, and bring them into Unreal. We want to see our scene after this is done. Once we've seen that, we'll move on to adding even more material details for these large, modular assets. Cases where we don't want to go into Painter at all and want to handle everything in Unreal with tilables. Let's see what we can do, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've reached the point where the models are ready, brought into Unreal, and the materials are assigned. It's not a complicated or strange process at all. For example, this asset you see here has 2 material slots, one for the standard decal, one for the colored decal. I'll select the standard one and assign it. See? Before doing this, we practically had no details on the model like this, but once the decal is imported, we can see the details sitting on the model. This is a large model, one that we couldn't take into Painter to work on. Okay, for the color section, I'll pick this color. We could even go with black. I basically just created another material instance from this and changed the color tint. Alright, this is how we work on our scene, and as you can see, the scene feels much more mature and complete now. What we need to do next is work on our smaller assets on day 4 and bring our project closer to the final stage. But before moving on to the smaller assets, we want to see, can we use Painter to enhance and refine our materials within Unreal Engine? And if so, how? The next video is dedicated to this topic, and after that, we'll head into day 4.